Hey everybody, my name is Bryce Ayers, and I'm a full-stack software engineer specializing in open source software. And today we're going to be talking about Docker and how to essentially spin up a Docker orchestration for your development environment. So that way you don't have to install MongoDB. You can just run your Node.js application and connect directly to a MongoDB instance that's running within the Docker orchestration. Makes things really simple, especially for your development environment. But you could also run this in production essentially, but for this demo purposes, we're just going to focus on just our development environment since the video would be too long otherwise. But for those of you that are running an app in production, I want to give you a heads up that this video is sponsored by LogRocket. LogRocket is the front-end application monitoring solution that allows you to see why your bugs are happening. And not just that bugs are happening, and not just that your users are experiencing them, but you'll get to experience them just like your users are. It even shows your Redux store. It surfaces performance problems. It shows your users' network activity. It shows your users' console logs and errors. And it works in just any sort of front-end platform that you can imagine. So check out LogRocket in the link in the top right of the video and get 14 days for free. So before we get started here, we have a couple things we got to make sure we got installed. If you haven't already, go to docker.com and we need to install the Docker desktop. So you can go down here, download it for Windows or Mac, whichever one you have. Also, you need to come over here to the Node.js website and make sure you have Node.js installed, which should install npm as well, and hopefully npx. So long-term support version should be perfect right here. And then you don't have to install MongoDB. We're going to handle that as a part of our Docker orchestration. But just in case you want to check it out and take a look, you can go over to the mongodb.com website and see what it's about. Then to kind of quickly scaffold our application here, I'm going to use Express for our backend for our Node.js app. And I'm just going to use the Express generator. It should be easy enough for us to get started. So let's go over here. Oops. I actually want this here. So I have a fresh empty project and I'm using Visual Studio Code. You can use whatever editor you prefer. I'm just going to pull up the console here. And from here, make sure you have, make sure you have npm installed. So I got version 6.11.3. And I think if you want to use npx, you could have at least 5.2. So let me clear that. So I'm just going to type npx express generator. And that'll go ahead and scaffold a project for us, and you'll see a bunch of projects pop up right here. If you don't have npx or get any errors with it, you can run this right here, npm install-g express generator. And then once it installs globally, then you can just run express, and that'll do the same thing. So let's come back over here, and you'll see we have a couple things. We have our app.js file. This is kind of the entry file here for things. Let me make this a little smaller here so you can see. Don't worry about that. So you just see it spins up a Node.js application. Nothing new there. Views, then we'll just focus on this index view here specifically. And we have some routes. And so if you see our index route, it just renders the index page here, the title express. So if I just run npm start, we can take a look. Oops, I need to run npm install first. And then npm start. And that should start the server for us. So if we come back over to this web page, refresh this here. Let's say Express, welcome to Express, because we're passing a title here. But what if we wanted to, say for our app here, want to pass in we'll say to-dos. Let's just call it to-dos. We'll do for the title. And then we'll pass it an array of to-dos, which right now we'll just make empty. And I'm going to go into my index.jade. And here we're just going to edit some stuff real quick. This isn't really the focus of the tutorial, but just so you can see kind of what we're doing here. So I'll make this a UL element. And we'll say for to do in todos, we'll have an li element with a class, we'll call it list item. And we want to put a class in there depending on if the to do is complete. Because basically our to dos are going to be this type of structure here. So it'll be description. We'll say going to the gym for the description, and then we'll say complete, and we can say true or false. So just so you have a clear picture of what we're doing here. So here I can put a conditional class on there just so we can do like a strike through if it's complete or not. So I'll just say todo.complete. We'll add the class complete, or we'll add no class. And here we're just going to add some text. We'll say description. Use string interpolation here. We'll say todo.description. And we'll say completed. We can say todo.complete. Otherwise, if we have no to-dos, what we can do here, say else, we'll render a paragraph tag, and we'll say no to-dos found. So let's save that, come back over here, refresh. Oops. Looks like we got a small bug there. Where is it saying for to do in to-dos? So let's see what happens if we kill our server here. There we go. So I guess we just had to restart the server there. No big deal. So we have to-dos, no to-dos found, because we're passing, if you remember, an empty array in. Perfect. All right, from here, so let's go ahead and I'm going to hit Command-Shift-P. I'm sure that's probably Control-Shift-P on a Windows machine. So type docker add, and you'll see add Docker files to workspace. It's just going to help us out real quick. Include optional Docker Compose files. Yes, let's do that. Port 3000 sounds good. Enter. And you'll see it generated some files for us. You could manually go and create this Docker file here yourself. So all it's doing is saying from the Node Alpine image, Node version 10.13. Alpine is just kind of a skinny version, lightweight version of it. It's just setting stuff to production, running, npm install, all that good stuff. Now if we come over to Docker Compose, we can see here it's got some stuff set up for us. Basically it has the image here. It's going to build it based on this Docker file we have. Node environments can specify production. That's all good and should work. I'm just going to set this to 3000 here. And so we have our Node.js app, but we're going to need our Mongo database essentially. So this is Docker Compose, and this is an orchestration of Docker images. So it'll spin up more than one Docker image for you, and then you can link them together and network them and do all kinds of good stuff like that. So let's create another service here. MongoDB, and we'll say image, I'll say Mongo latest. Normally in production, you'd want to actually specify a set image so you don't get any issues with, the latest update breaking your project, but this will be fine for us. Ports, so we need a port mapping here, and we'll say 27017. We'll map to 27017. Oops. All right. And now we don't want the database is storing data for us. And so we don't want it to crash or go down or restart and lose our data, right? So what we need to do is specify what's called volumes. And in here we can say data, and that will map to inside the container data/db. And down here, what we need to do is say volumes data. So you can see, since this isn't a relative path, we got to specify what the volume is going to be right there. And then another volume I want to specify in the container. So we have this. So for our app here, we want to specify some volume so it'll map to what we currently have. So that way our projects, we don't have to basically rebuild the container every time we want to do something. And so from here, we can just say dot. So everything we have here, and we want it to map to user source / app. And let me look at this Dockerfile and see where it's mapping to. User source / app. Yep, cool. So that's the working directory in our item, and we're going to map basically all these files into there. Perfect. You could specify actual individual folders and make it more lightweight, but we don't need to optimize it for production. This is just for development purposes. So I'm going to save that. Let me spin this down. Also at this time, I'm going to install a nodemon. It'll automatically watch your files and then restart for you. So we can go npm install -- save nodemon. I'm going to let that install there. And then in our package.json file, we can come in here, change this to nodemon. Now it'll watch our files for us and reload. And when all these files, whenever it reloads or updates the changes to the server, then those will get mapped into our Docker container because it's a volume basically referencing a part on our computer that'll map to the inside of the Docker container. So now if I say docker compose up. All right, starting node. So come back over to our page, refresh. Everything should be the same. Perfect. And then just one thing I want to test, just make sure if I make a change here, to-dos, put an extra S on there. You should see it looked like it kicked off the restart. If I refresh, there we go. We see it actually picked up that change. Cool. So let's change that back there and save it.
Hey there. Before we get started, I wanted to take a second to say that this video was brought to you by LogRocket, a front-end performance monitoring solution. If you like this video and want us to keep making more like this one, all you have to do is click on any of the links in the top right of this video to sign up for a free trial. That's it. We hope you enjoy the video.
So next, let's go into Mongo. Now that we have it running in a container, we can go and access it. So let me go over here. The command we want to run is Mongo, but make sure, because I actually forgot to mention this at the beginning, make sure you go to docs.mongodb.com, manual administration, install-community, and you'll find install instructions for your various operating system. So if you're on a Mac, you can install, I believe, with Homebrew, and then use Homebrew to install it. But you'll want to grab that community edition. That way it'll give you that command line access. And so we can just type Mongo. Normally you'd have a username, which would be like admin, but ours is unsecured at the moment. So we type this in, we should see it pop up here. We see a connection from our computer. So from here, what we can do is we can type show DBs. So those are all our databases we currently have. And then we can type use test. And even though we didn't create it, you can switch to it and it'll instantiate. So we say show DBs. So nothing's there just yet because there's no documents actually stored, but you're hypothetically using the test database at the moment to work within. You can say show collections, and there should be none. So what we can do here is we can say db.todos.insert many. So we're going to insert a few things here. Oops, not todos. To-dos. Insert many, and we'll do our to-dos here. And so this may seem weird, people coming from a relational database where your tables aren't created. These are just documents, and so you can it's just like a nested JSON object essentially. So even though it doesn't exist yet, we can go ahead and just write to it, automatically create that nested hierarchy for us. And we'd say do laundry complete. We can say false. Then we can insert one more. We'll say description. Buy dog food. Complete. We'll say true. And let's close this off and we'll run this. Looks like we had a typo in there. Let me insert many, description, do laundry, complete false. Oh, because it needs to be an array. That's what I missed there. So let's just put the square brackets around that. There we go. Cool, and so it shows the insert IDs. So now if we go db.todos.find pretty, this should return all of them. And you can see here we got our two to-dos. Perfect. So now if we jump back over to our project here, move this around. So we have this. Now let's go ahead and wire up Mongo to be used in our app. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm just gonna check the package.json. We do not have mongoose installed yet, so I'm gonna hit Command C and kill our Docker container process. We're gonna go npm install -- save. We'll type mongoose, because that's what we'll use to connect to our Mongo database. And then we can write docker-compose up. That'll restart back up for us. Then in here, I'm just going to create a new folder. I'll call it models. I'll put a new file there called todos.js. Then for our models, we can say const mongoose equals require. And we'll include that dependency in here. So we need to create basically our structure of our to-do schema so we can query it. So we'll say to-do schema equals new mongoose.schema. And that takes an object, we'll say description, which is a string, and complete, which is a Boolean. Then from there we can go module.exports.todos equals mongoose.model. Let's take two params. We'll say to do and todos schema. Like that. Perfect. So now we have our model defined. Let's go into app.js. And in app.js here, we just need to add a little bit of code. I'll just use a bar syntax like they have. We'll require mongoose, just like we did before. Then we need to connect to our database. So we'll say mongoose.connect MongoDB. So that's the syntax for, so like HTTP, they got their own syntax there. And instead of saying, normally it'd say 127.0.0.1, but instead what we're going to do is we're going to look into our docker-compose file, and we should have a link here. It looks like we forgot to add the link in. So here we can say links, and we'll say MongoDB. And so what's going to happen, we're going to have this MongoDB instance will be accessible through its name, essentially. Instead of having to try to reference IP addresses and figure out what IP addresses are getting mapped to where and what ports, Docker is going to handle all that for us. So we go back over to our app.js. So in app.js, then we can just say, oops, there we go. MongoDB, instead of just using just that name, we'll say port's going to be that 117, and we want to connect to the test database. And here we just use new URL parser. Don't worry too much about that. All right, so now we have that. So now we can say var db equals mongoose.connection. And then we can have different callbacks here. And so on error, say console.error.bind console. We'll say connection error if we have one. And db.once. So once the connection is open, we want to do this one time, we'll say function, have a callback in here. So this is where we are connected. And we can say console.log connected. Perfect. So if I save that, let's go ahead and actually kill this process here. Let's bring it back up. And we should see a connected message if we did this right. Nodemon crashed. Can I read error of undefined? Oh, I got a typo in there. So we spin that down with Command C, or excuse me, Control C. And let's see if it connects. Connected. Perfect. So that's actually the callback we wanted, where the connection is now open. So now we should be able to go into our index route. And here we can say var todos equals require, say models slash todos. And so down here, let's make this an asynchronous function. So we'll say async. And here we can say const todos. We'll say await todos.find. And then let's just pass that in. Let's see what happens here. So it looks like there's some errors here. Oh, I'm sure you guys caught that. 3 O's on my Boolean. All right, it says connected. So let's go over to our web page and refresh this. And all right, we're pulling data from our database. So see description, do laundry, completed false. I'm just gonna add some quick CSS styling in here to make this look a little better.
Hey there, it's me again. Just wanted to take a second to say that this video is brought to you by LogRocket, a front-end performance monitoring solution. If you like this video and would like us to keep doing ones like it, all you have to do is click on any of the links in the top right of this video to sign up for a free trial. That's it. We hope you enjoy the video.
Let's see. Just gonna come down here and say list item, list style type none, say background, we'll say margin, bottom, we can say 10 pixels, just give a little spacing between them, and we'll say padding, say 10 pixels. And if it's complete, it should have the complete class like we added before. We'll say text, decoration, say line through. Let me save that. I'm not sure nodemon will pick up that CSS style sheet, so I'm just going to stop it there. Let's see if that'll pick it up. There we go. Cool. So you see we have our 2 to-dos and one with the strike through because it has a class completed added to it. So let's go back into Mongo and let's add one more to-do here just to see it get picked up in the changes here. If we refresh the page, so we can say db.todos.insert, and this time we don't need an array since we're just going to do one. We'll say description. We'll say go to the gym. Complete And I'll say true. Let me see what happened there. There we go. I just had to reconnect to the database first. So I just hit up and then ran it again. So inserted one, come back over, refresh, and you see we have another one right there that pops right up from our database. So perfect. So now we're interacting with our database, and we didn't really have to go and set up Mongo database on our local machine. We have everything we need from our Docker-compose files, spinning up both our Node.js app and our MongoDB instance. And then there's more things you can do, pass environment, variables like this, so you have it set to production, all kinds of things. So hope you guys enjoyed it and appreciate LogRocket for letting me make this video. Take care, guys.